Greetings, Tubineros. I hope you're having a pleasant Sunday and had a great Mardi Gras. So anyway, in February the 4th's Nation magazine, we hear again from those old tale tellers of flame, the fibbers and liars about the Middle East. On the back page, I've been ignoring their diatribes for quite a while, but I feel obliged to respond to this one, this time. This issue, they're trying to play tit for tat, equalizing the suffering of dispossessed Jews in the Arab/Islamic world with the Nakba of the Palestinians. The figures they give, what are they? Get my finger out of my eye here. 850,000 expellees, I believe, match the actual number of Palestinians driven from what is now the State of Israel. Aside from the fact that 850,000 Jews were driven from a huge geographic zone of the Levant, North Africa, and the Arab Peninsula, compared to the same number driven from a relatively tiny area, here's the breakdown of the statistics by country, taken from their little piece here. Jews in Arab countries in 1948 and now. If I can get my eye to work. In Algeria, we had 140,000 Jews in 1948. Now there are 0. Egypt, 75,000 in 1948 compared to 100 now. Iraq, 135,000 to 100. Lebanon, 5,000 to 100. Libya, 38,000 in 1948 to 0 now. Certainly none now if there any were left alive. Morocco, 265,000 to 5,700. Syria, 30,000 to 100. Tunisia, 105,000 to 1,500. And Yemen, good old yummy Yemen, 55,000 to 200. The piece goes on to assert that, in contrast to Israel, welcoming refugee Jews, these Arab refugees were not welcomed by their fellow Arabs, but have been and are used only to make Israel's final solution to the Palestinian problem impossible, which might be a good thing. It also describes how their number has increased from 650,000, actually a too low estimate of the dispossessed Arab Palestinians, to 5 million. Well, first of all, it's called natural increase. They do things like that in the Third World. But it is just the right number to consider a final solution, I suppose. Secondly, unlike Israel, these Arab societies are not immigrant-seeking countries. They are very embedded cultures around tribe and clan and rooted in locality. That is why their dispossession was such a tragedy for them, because in being bulldozed out of the home village, they're condemned to be outcasts in a very tribalistic part of the world. Just like the ancestors of this piece's author in Europe a couple millennia ago. Using his logic, the Romans aren't to blame for Jews being outcasts in Europe, living in ghettos. That's all the fault of backward Teutonic and Slavic tribes, out to make the Roman legacy look bad. So you see the idiocy to which the fibbers of flame must stoop to make their cause. In the concluding paragraph, we read, there have been many millions of refugees in the wake of the Second World War, with only one exception. None of those refugee groups occupy the interests of the world and of the United Nations in a major way. That one exception are the Palestinian refugees. They even admit they're refugees in this piece, which is a step upward, I suppose. In fact, a special branch of the United Nations, UNRWA, exists only for the maintenance of those, quote, refugees. It's more like them now. In the over 60 years of the existence of this agency, it has cost many billions of dollars, most of it, you guessed it, contributed by the United States. First, not mentioned, of course, are the billions of dollars not contributed, but forced from the American taxpayer to subsidize the otherwise non-self-sustaining State of Israel. That is off the table in public discourse. But the article is right in that there are millions of post-World War II refugees whose plight has gone largely unsung and whose tragedy was an inspiration to the post-war Zionist movement in inflicting the same upon others. I refer to the expulsion of some 12 to 14 million Volksdeutsche, ethnic Germans from Central Europe by the victors of World War II, from Poland and Czechoslovakia mainly, but also Yugoslavia, Hungary, and that part of East Prussia, annexed by the USSR around present-day Kaliningrad on the Baltic. It didn't matter if this was the same manner of collective guilt and punishment dished out by the Nazis. The Nazis were German, these people were Germans, and alien to the cultural majority in power and branded as Nazi collaborators by ethnic default, regardless of their personal beliefs. Just like Palestinians are forever to be judged by the pro-Nazi Grand Mufti Hussein of Jerusalem, and so, in the words of the late Meir Kahane, they must go. Is it just me, or does anyone else see a complete perversion of the founding Jewish myth of let my people go? How quickly this turns into occupying other folks' land and sparing not Amalek even unto the seed. Well, author R.M. Douglas has written a new book looking at the German expellees of Central Europe. Here is his photograph section where he shares some examples of children in a very Auschwitzian pose in their DP camps. Here's one of a little girl in a post-war displaced persons camp in Europe, and opposite that, one of a little boy, also in such a camp. So, I'd like to hear someone in the comments section tell me these children deserve this because they were born on the wrong side of history, how they must pay for the crimes of Hitler. Of course, when you do that, you'll forfeit any claim to common humanity yourself, but I'm sure there's a few out there who could enjoy this being done to children. It does make a mockery of all the moral purpose attributed to the good war. Nor does it help to blame this on the communists because Stalin wasn't the only one involved. Pro-Western leaders like Czechoslovakia's Edvard Beneš were militant advocates of German expulsion, in his case from the Sudetenland, where the largest number of expellees originated. Churchill and Roosevelt turned a blind eye to it, even encouraged it, while Polish leaders, communist and Catholic, were all for driving the ethnic Volksdeutsche out of newly acquired lands to the west to make this occupied territory Polish. Strangely enough, though I don't believe it a coincidence, the largest number of immigrants to the emerging Israel came from Poland at this same time. These immigrants have been driven out by a wave of pogroms in Kielce, but once in Palestine they seem to have absorbed the lesson of their former home. We're in power now, so we'll drive out the unwanted other, make him pay restitution for our pain and suffering. All Arabs are murdering followers of the Grand Mufti, like all Germans, such as these children are Nazis, so they're expendable people on the wrong side of the human race. Anyone besides me see a moral and ethical disconnect here? What I see is Gandhi's old adage of an eye for an eye making the whole world blind. The Nazis imposed suffering on Europeans, Gentile and Jew alike. Europeans imposed suffering on Germans and Jews to reassert national self-validation. Immigrants from Central Europe imposed this lesson in Palestine by creating a new wave of expendable expellees in the name of nation building. Arab nations retaliate by expelling nearly 1 million Jews from their boundaries after 1948, and so on and on and on, spiraling down the drainpipe. It also helped that the Haganah, the Liberation Army of Jewish Palestine, received most of its arms shipments from Beneš's pre-communist Czechoslovakia, applying the same political final solution. Maybe there was an instruction book included in each gun crate, though it would hardly have been necessary. Our fibbers of flame won't come out and say the Palestinians deserve their catastrophe, like they won't come out and say that these German children deserved this condition. How could they and still consider themselves members of the larger human race? But the implication is there. As long as the tribal mentality is empowered and subsidized, this is the inevitable result. And all special pleading is reduced to its true essence of bullshit. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, who is it? Thomas Jefferson, that dead president on the $2 bill? Hey, at least you didn't make it on the $3. What can we do for you today? We just want to restate that founding principle of the American Republic, that all men are created equal, endowed by that creator with certain inalienable rights, etc., and yada. Well, okay, aside from that phrase being considered sexist now by the politically correct, and you being a slave owner and all, and that's America's mission in the world, to go forth and remake the world in that image. Except when it comes to friends in Israel or Europe. Like slave owners, they're allowed to bend ideals to self-interest, just like those all-American ideals have bent at home. Yeah, to serve the Koch brothers, and not the citizens viewing this video.